Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do a DIY Dollar Tree heart sign redo. I'm going to make it into a farmhouse welcome sign. You're going to need this sign from the Dollar Tree, some burlap ribbon, some craft paint, white and black. You're going to need this gluing thing, this other thing, and a Sharpie. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to peel the decoration off of this sign. You could go ahead and remove the pieces right now, and I didn't for some reason. I don't know why I didn't do that first. But we're going to do that anyway, so, unless you want to leave them connected that way, you can. I'm going to replace the ribbon with, I'm going to replace the ribbon with a piece of burlap. So, this is a MDF, which is a medium density fiber board. And actually, I kind of feel like it's a high density fiber board, which just the pieces are smaller and more compact. And on top of it is a thick layer of almost like poster board with the print on it. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to remove the poster board. To do so, we want to peel back the shiny top layer of paper. And then once the under layer of paper is exposed, the rag laying on top will soak through that paper and it rubs off really quite easily once you get that top layer removed. I'm also using a old club card just to use as a scraper. If you use anything really sharp as a scraper, you might risk hurting yourself and gouging the fiberboard, which we don't really want to do that. Okay, and I'm just using, like I said, just try to do the best I can, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And then I'm just using a wet washcloth or a dish towel. Actually, I'm using one of each just to soak it off. So once you get down to the glue layer, you just want to make sure you rub and clean off all that glue. And I'm just using water. I'm not using any solvents. All right. But for the sake of you not watching me do this for 45 minutes, and it does take some time. It took me about 45 minutes from start to finish. But for the sake of you not watching me do this for 45 minutes, we're going to go ahead and jump ahead. And I'm going to remove the ribbons off the back that are connecting it. Like I said, you can do this beforehand if you want to. It's entirely up to you. But they just peel right off. They have this paper tape over the ribbon. The ribbon isn't actually glued on there. It's just paper taped on there. And then I started to remove the sticker and I realized not necessary. So here it is cleaned up. And here's the next day. You want to wait for this to dry completely before you paint it. I wanted my sign to look like weathered wood, like old barn board. So I've created like a gray base coat. Okay, so it's mostly white paint with a little drip of black paint on there. You want to make sure you get the edges. I didn't worry about getting the back, but you can if that's something that concerns you. I just made sure I got straight across and all the edges. And to help simulate the wood look, I'm going in one direction, sort of like where wood grain would go. The boards would go long ways, then I'm going ahead and I'm painting long ways. Okay? Now I'm just taking a little bit more black and adding it to create sort of the layered look of the grain. Okay? So I'm creating some weathering and some graining and some veining, and then I'm going back with even darker gray and to make these striations so that you can see here. All right. Okay, so here's what it looks like, and I have to tell you, in person, the difference between that and that is hardly noticeable in real life. Obviously on the camera, it's much darker. So one of the things I wanted to emphasize when you watch these videos is if yours in real life doesn't look exactly like it looks on the video, that's okay. Do it to the tone that you like. Now, this isn't the final product. This is just supposed to simulate the weathered wood grain. That's what the dark lines are. And when we whitewash over it, it will look, this is supposed to simulate weathered wood. Then when we whitewash over it, that's going to give it the rustic country feel of whitewashed weathered wood, if you know what I mean. Okay? Okay, so silliness aside, you watched me just use dry brush techniques to get that wood grain look, and it's nothing fancy. You don't need any kind of skills. Just a foam brush is really all you need. And now I'm going over with a dry brush technique. I want to make sure I get it on the edges because on a weathered board, you know, where the edges sometimes have like more worn away. So is what guess I'm trying to go for. And then just whitewashing over it with a dry brush technique, okay? And again, do a few light layers is better than one heavy duty layer. Now I just wanted to show you some options. There are quite a few stickers at the Dollar Tree that would work, some of these wall clings. And you can actually put all your boards together and put the cling on there that way and then separate it if you want to, or you could just leave it all stuck together to make like a heart, and the spaces between it will look like board lines. All right, but what we're going to do is we're going to put those spaces back in there, and what I've done is I've taken a piece of the burlap ribbon with the wire edge and I folded it in half to find the center, and I've matched it to the bow in the top piece of the heart. If you've been around, you know I call the top of the heart where it dips down the bow, kind of like to match the bow of your lip. And then I've just made sure it's gone evenly down the center. You could go ahead and put 2 ribbons on it like there was, but I'm just only doing 1. And I am gluing a second piece on there to create a loop at the top, but mostly to create 2 tails on the bottom, because I wanted this to look like it was just glued onto a bow with long streaming tails. All right, and I've taken the rest of the roll of ribbon and I've created a 3-loop bow. I have bow tutorials. I can link them in the description box on my channel. You guys have been around for a while, you know how it is. But instead of leaving the tails on the 2 pieces that I tied, I went ahead and I used this pencil to tuck them back under the knot to create a 3-looped bow, because I didn't think that the bow at top needed tails if there's going to be 2 tails hanging on the bottom. But that's just an option, all right? And I'm going to put it off to the side because I'm going to paint to decorate it at first. And actually, we're not going to paint it. We're just going to use Sharpie. So now I'm just taking a light pencil and I'm just plotting out what I want it to say and to write. I was back and forth about what I really wanted for this sign, but I decided to go ahead and create "Welcome to the Tavarises," and that's Eden and Anthony's last name. And even though I even though I pre-planned with pencil, I messed up. So that second A right there is not going to stay. It does not look good. So I'm going to show you here how I'm fixing it. I'm just mixing little tiny batches of the paint. First, I'm going to go directly over the black letter with the white paint. And as it starts to dry, I'm going to go back in and I'm going to erase all the pencil lines while I'm waiting for that A to dry. And the pencil lines aren't necessary, you know, but I think it is, so I'm going ahead and do that. Now I'm just creating little batches of paint to match all the colors, and I'm going the same way I did before. I'm starting with the lightest and adding dark layers on top of it, and then I'm adding some graining, and then I'm going back over with some whitewash. And this is going to take a few minutes, and you know, you may think that this is like expert level stuff, but it really isn't. Anybody who can match colors can match this. It just takes patience and perseverance and blending it out. So I'm going to let this dry a little bit before I add the new A. And what I've done is I've gotten a scrap piece of paper because I want to make a symmetrical decoration on this piece of wood. So I've just rubbed a piece of paper on the edge of the wood so that I can get the exact shape, folded it in half. And now I'm creating a heart with vines. And this is basically how we did when we were in school. We folded in half, drew half a heart, and I'm using that same transfer method that we've used before, where we're going to use extra thick pencil lines, and then we're going to go over and we're just going to go back over and rub it out, and then you'll see how it transfers right to that wood. Okay, and now we're going to go over it with the Sharpie. Now I have 2 Sharpies I'm using for this process. I have one that's almost starting to fade, and I've talked to you guys before about those. It's good to keep those Sharpies for different projects. You can use them for shading, but you can also use them for projects like this where you want to do like a light base and then go back over it and darken it up. Okay? Now I'm just copying the first A to get them symmetrical. And I did leave a space. Once I realized that the A was not right, I left a big enough space for it to go in that area. All right. And now I've just going to go back and create sort of that farmhouse feel that we get these days with that faux calligraphy. I've just used my regular penmanship. I haven't done anything fancy. And then I'm going back and I'm thickening all of the, I always, they're not really the downstrokes, but I think that's what they're called, the downstrokes. But it's basically any line that's kind of going from upper middle to bottom left is sort of like the stroke you want to thicken. And it's to simulate the calligraphy the way you were holding the pen. If you hold the calligraphy pen a certain way, it'll create a fat line and then a skinny line in the other direction. So, I mean, that's all it is. But you guys can print out the welcome word off of the computer and copy it. You could print out whatever letters you want to use, or you could just use those clings to create whatever sign you want to create. And for their last name, I'm just using like a Times New Roman sort of regular book font, sort of not anything fancy. Um, and again, I'm doing the same, fattening the certain parts of the letter so that it would look more like a book font. All right. I'm doing the same thing with the bottom. I put established in 2017 on the bottom because that's what year they were married. As you know, because you've been here. Now I'm just waiting for that A to dry a little better, or the paint under the A to dry a little better before I go back and fill that part in, okay? But what I thought I would do is I really thought I would really like to make this heart a color. I was contemplating whether or not I should make it red or pink. Both of those would look cute, but I still wanted to just keep it with a very neutral tone. So I went ahead and I made it white. And I actually was thinking about cutting out a heart-shaped piece of burlap and gluing it on top, which might also still be an option. I'm going to ask Eden how she would like that. But now I'm just going to go ahead and color in. And I've decided to go ahead and color in the leaves and the vines into dark gray. So I've made a shade of gray, not as dark as black, but definitely darker than the whitewashing. Because I did want it to also just look weathered as well. All right. And I'm just trying to cover all of the Sharpie. If you don't want to pre-draw your vines, you don't have to. You can go ahead and just freehand them if you feel so inclined to. All right. I just want to show you the technique of how to transfer and make something symmetrical and then transfer it to the board. All right. And now we're just going to fill in that last A. And the last thing we're going to do is going to glue the bow onto the top of the ribbon with some hot glue. And then as it cools off, we're just going to glue a little tiny piece of jute for a hanger. And that is it. Oh, and we dovetailed the bottoms of the ribbon. So I hope you really enjoyed this tutorial. If you do, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions at all, leave them in the comments down below. Don't forget to share this redo with friends and family or anybody you know you're interested in maybe making one of these, or at least making something with this sign. And if you haven't yet, click subscribe. When you do, a little bell will pop up. When you ring that bell, YouTube will let you know whenever I upload a new video. And as always, take care. God bless. See you next time. Bye.